Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nick Burns. I teach here at the Kennedy School. It's a great pleasure to welcome everybody here tonight, all 750 of you in this fantastic forum. And it's a special pleasure for me to welcome His Excellency Makhdoom Shah Mahmood Qureshi, the Foreign Minister of Pakistan. Please give him another round of applause. Tonight's session, of course, is sponsored by the Institute of Politics. It's also sponsored by our newest program on diplomacy, the Future of Diplomacy Project, by our program on India and South Asia. And I do want to thank the Pakistani Students Caucus because they came to us several months ago, implored us to invite the minister, which was an easy thing to do, and they encouraged this visit, so I'm grateful to our Pakistani students today. Former Minister Qureshi's had a good day, I think a good day, at Harvard University. He had lunch with faculty, fellows, and students at the faculty club. He then met with some of our Pakistani students from Harvard College. He toured Harvard Yard on a very beautiful autumn day, and so it's been a special pleasure to welcome him here. He is a very distinguished leader of his country. He's a longtime champion of human rights and of democracy in Pakistan. He attended Lahore College in Lahore in Pakistan. He then went overseas and attended the other Cambridge in the United Kingdom. He graduated from there and decided to devote his life to public service, so he entered politics. He became a member of the Punjab National Assembly, and then Minister of Planning and Development in Punjab, and then Minister of Finance in the Punjab. He then joined the National Assembly, where he was Parliamentary Secretary for Food and Agriculture and Minister of State for Parliamentary Affairs. He is, I think as everybody knows, served in the Pakistan People's Party. He was spokesperson to the chairperson, Benazir Bhutto, and he was Deputy Executive Secretary of that party, which has played such an important role in returning democracy to Pakistan. He's in the United States because he'll leave for Washington, D.C., where he'll co-chair the U.S. Pakistan Strategic Dialogue with his partner, Secretary Hillary Clinton. They've met twice, I think, already in the past year. This is a historic third meeting. Now, from an American perspective, Pakistan is certainly an important friend in the most vital part of the world of the United States these days, South Asia. And for 6 decades, the United States and Pakistan have worked together on some of the most historic issues of our time. It was Pakistan that helped President Nixon and Henry Kissinger to arrange the secret and historic opening by the United States to Mao's China. It was Pakistan that was the principal partner of the United States in opposing the Soviet invasion and subsequent occupation of Afghanistan in the late 1970s and throughout the 1980s. And since 9/11, Pakistan has been the most essential partner of the United States, both regionally and globally, in the struggle against terrorism. And since President Obama has been in office, Pakistan has also been the recipient of a very large infusion of economic and military assistance. It's a strong friendship, as we talked about today, and a long friendship, but it is also a complex friendship, not without its misunderstandings, its disagreements, and its strategic dilemmas, because it is also Pakistan that has on its territory Al-Qaeda and the Taliban and Lashkar-e-Taiba and other vicious terrorist groups. And these groups have launched attacks from Pakistani soil across the border into Afghanistan and against America's military forces there. And Pakistan also has a difficult and sometimes unstable and always a potentially dangerous relationship with India. And the United States, of course, has a new strategic friendship and partnership with India. And finally, it's in Pakistan itself that the struggle for democracy is perhaps not permanently resolved, where the military and civilian parts of the government share power, characterized by a turbulent past and an uncertain future. And so, as we discussed at lunch today, there is no shortage of issues when we talk about Pakistan, its role in the world, and its future. And I would go so far as to say that of the 192 member states of the United Nations, no country is more important to our country, to global peace and security, than Pakistan. And so it's really extraordinary honor for us to have the Foreign Minister of Pakistan here today. I think we're all in for a very interesting discussion when he finishes his remarks, and please join me in welcoming him today. Mr. Minister, the floor is yours.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ambassador Nicholas Burns, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a privilege to be at this august institution. I'm thankful to Ambassador Nicholas Burns for inviting me to speak here this evening on the issues that are of vital concern to both Pakistan and the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, in the course of history, there are moments and events that determine the future of nations and sometimes the future of mankind. It is not an overstatement that we face that critical crossroad in Pakistan today. It is propitious for me to be here at Harvard before I leave for Washington to begin the third phase of the strategic dialogue between Pakistan and the United States. That dialogue and the coordination of our policies will define the direction and future of our bilateral relationship, as well as the success of the containment of terrorism and quite possibly the very future of the region. Ladies and gentlemen, these are no ordinary times, especially for Pakistan. Over the last 2.5 years, my country has fundamentally restored democratic governance. We have withstood the assassination of our most popular leader, Mohtharma Benazir Bhutto, held free and fair democratic elections, and restored civilian rule to Pakistan. We have a democratically elected government. We've elected the first woman Speaker of Parliament in the history of the Muslim world. We have restored the civil society with an independent judiciary. We have nurtured and protected a large, robust, and boisterous media. Our NGOs are thriving. We have criminalized discrimination against women. We have created an income support program, the Benazir Bhutto Support Fund, to act as a safety net for our people in economic stress. We have liberated Swat from Taliban control and have launched military operation in South Waziristan, where our troops have fought heroically against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. We have announced special taxation for the rich to pay the costs of disaster relief. And possibly our greatest achievement has been the restoration of our constitution, stripping the final statutory legacy of dictatorship from our national charter. We have managed to begin this extraordinary social and economic renaissance, even as Pakistan stands in the very trenches of the civilized world, on the front lines against the spread of international terrorism. More than 30,000 of our civilians have been killed in the ongoing war against terrorism and extremism. Nearly 7,000 law enforcement officials have offered their lives. This is more than the casualties suffered by all of the troops of NATO in Afghanistan. and terrorists have assassinated the greatest leader in our country, hell bent upon stopping Pakistan from moving forward to a progressive and modern society. Ladies and gentlemen, compounding the stagnation of our economic and social sectors and the thousands of lives and tens of billions of dollars that we have invested fighting extremism, Pakistan now faces a new challenge, the greatest floods in modern history. Over the last 3 months, Pakistan has seen 1/5 of our nation under water, an area as large as Italy. 20 million of our citizens have been impacted. 10 million have had their homes destroyed. 8,000 schools have been washed away, as have scores of hospitals and thousands of miles of roads. There is not one bridge left standing in all of the valley of Swat. No nation could have been prepared for the magnitude of this disaster, whether in the developed or the developing world. Think of the devastation caused by Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. Now multiply that 100-fold. And this is what we face today in all 4 provinces of Pakistan. Yet, because of the effective action of our government, we were able to evacuate millions of our citizens and held deaths down to a minimum. We've almost miraculously prevented the outbreak of mass cholera and typhoid epidemics, which were widely predicted for our refugee camps. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a real test of national character, but our people once again are rising to the occasion. Despite negative stereotypes about Pakistan, it is a country of enormous vitality and innovation. We have a sophisticated business class, robust capital markets, vast natural resources, and hard-working population of 180 million people. The World Bank has identified us as one of the world's leading emerging markets. Ladies and gentlemen, we are a product of a difficult 63-year history that began with a bloodbath across the subcontinent, the greatest human migration in recorded history, a totally inequitable distribution of resources and industry, and a haunting human rights disgrace in Jammu and Kashmir. We've had episodic wars with our giant and often hostile neighbor, one of which resulted in the dismemberment of our federation. And one of the most critical factors in understanding contemporary Pakistan and the political attitudes of the Pakistani people is the exploitation and manipulation of my country as a blunt instrument against the Soviet Union during the most critical periods of the Cold War. There is a reason we are what we are, and that our people believe what they believe. To understand the present, one must understand the past. Let me quote from a brilliant piece by scholar and advisor to President Clinton and Obama, Bruce Vidal, published in the inaugural edition of the Newsweek of Pakistan. He writes, Pakistanis are used to being disappointed and betrayed by America. For 63 years, the relationship between the US and Pakistan has oscillated between periods of intense, close alliance, usually revolving around large secret projects and periods of intense, angry animosity, centering on sanctions and abandonment. Washington has fallen in love with every Pakistani military dictator and done little to help elected civilian governments cope with the country's economic problems. Unquote. So, ladies and gentlemen, to the people of Pakistan, we see a half a century of indisputable empirical evidence of the US dancing with dictators who subverted human rights using our people and our soldiers as surrogates in proxy wars. If anyone wonders why the people and military of Pakistan are concerned about the continued commitment of the United States to Pakistan in the future, just look back to 1989 to find an answer. The Soviets left Afghanistan defeated in 1989. The Americans, victorious, left on the next bus out of town. The Mujahideen that the CIA cultivated to fight the jihad filled the political vacuum, morphing into the Taliban and later into Al-Qaeda. The rest is history, a very painful and a bloody history for your country and for mine. The radicalization and extremism in our region were neither unexpected nor unpredicted. Our late martyred leader, Benazir Bhutto, Harvard class of 1973, when meeting with President Bush Sr. in June of 1989, predicted what would come. She said precise words about Afghanistan that still bring me chills. Benazir Bhutto said to President Bush, "Mr. President, I'm afraid we have created a Frankenstein that will come back to haunt us someday." President Bush did not respond. The abandonment by the US of its most precious political and human values each time it had to choose between dictatorship and democracy no doubt contributes to the findings of the recent Pew survey. It shows that an overwhelming majority of Pakistanis consider America not a friend, but rather, embarrassingly, as the enemy. This is the climate. This is the reality we are working in. This is the mindset that we have to reverse. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most significant developments in creating a new era of relationship between the United States and Pakistan has been the passage of the Kerry-Lugar-Berman Bill. This commits $7.5 billion over the next 5 years to non-military assistance for Pakistan. The new law is a metaphor for the Obama and Zardari doctrine that only an economically viable Pakistan that delivers social services to its people will have the political strength and stability to defeat the terrorist menace that threatens Pakistan and the world. The Obama doctrine is not transactional. It is not based on tit for tat. You do this for us and we will do this for you. That this mantra of the past, the mantra of exploitation that is proving so difficult to wash away from the minds of the people. What we are trying to create is a long-term, mature, and mutually beneficial partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, we are an ally, not a satellite. We will fight together with you for our common goals and ends, especially in our joint effort to destroy the terrorist cancer that threatens all of civilization. But we are first and foremost, like every nation on earth, committed to preserving our national interest. We live in a rough neighborhood, and we will live in that rough neighborhood even when you leave. We have to prepare for all eventualities. We have to protect our borders. You have to respect our sovereignty. You have to realize that the political price you pay in Pakistan and that my government pays as your friend from the almost daily drone assaults on our territory. And if unmanned drone attacks were not difficult enough for our people to absorb, the recent attacks by NATO helicopters in Pakistan killing Pakistani soldiers were nothing short of infuriating our people. In the battle for the hearts and minds of the people of Pakistan, Kerry Lugar is one step forward. Massive flood relief is one step forward. But drone and helicopter attacks on our territory and people are 2 steps back. Ladies and gentlemen, if Pakistani schools were provided with the curriculum and nutrition that children needed to learn and grow, parents would be far less likely to turn in desperation to retrograde institutions that poison our people. If there were factory jobs for our young people in our provinces and tribal areas that provided them decent wages, they would be far less vulnerable to inducements from radicals and terrorists. If the markets of Europe and America were open to Pakistani exports, the Pakistani people would have far more faith in their government, support for democratic values, and most of all, a stake in the success of their country. This is the kind of support we need from you. We need trade, not just aid. We need MOUs, not IOUs. We need your Congress to pass legislation creating reconstruction opportunity zones. We need your Congress to pass free trade treaty with Pakistan. We need the US to implement one of the key provisions of an early draft of Kerry Lugar that would provide $1 billion in additional economic and social assistance each year if the US President can certify that Pakistan is a civil government and a democracy. These are the kind of things that will win the hearts and minds of our people and make them understand who their true friends are. Ladies and gentlemen, in the plethora of problems before us, we have to realistically understand that improved relations between the two nuclear-armed powers of South Asia, Pakistan and India, is the missing key to a regional peace. For decades, India has tried to convince the world that unrest in Kashmir is a product of Pakistani intervention. But over the last bloody months and weeks, everyone, including India, now understands that the insurrection in Kashmir and Jammu is a long neglected problem that is not caused by Pakistani intervention, but rather Indian occupation. Pakistan views the prevailing situation in the occupied Kashmir with grave concern. It has resulted in deaths of more than 100 Kashmiris, including women and children. Hundreds have been injured and thousands arrested. Men and women of goodwill in both India and Pakistan know that this issue must be addressed once for all if the Kashmir time bomb was to be defused. On its part, Pakistan is willing to engage India in a comprehensive dialogue to normalize relations between the two countries by finding amicable solution to all outstanding issues, including the core dispute of Jammu and Kashmir. We urge the United States, a friend of both India and Pakistan to do everything in its power to resolve this conflict and remove one more source of Muslim discontent and anger, taking oxygen out of the terrorist fire. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand and remember that in Pakistan, too many have suffered, too many have been killed, too many have been terrorized. A price too great has been paid to allow our effort to fail. Pakistan, and for the civilized world, failure is not an option. It is a time of tension and crisis, but also a time of opportunity and hope. Robert F. Kennedy, Harvard class of 1948, once said that the future does not belong to those who are content with today, apathetic toward common problems, timid and fearful in the face of new ideas and bold projects. Rather, it will belong to those who can blend vision, reason, and courage in a personal commitment to the ideals and great enterprises of society. For Robert Kennedy and for Benazir Bhutto, for the sons and daughters of Harvard and the sons and daughters of our planet, we must succeed. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, as is the tradition at the forum, the minister has agreed to take your questions. We have 4 microphones, 2 in the floor, 2 in the balconies. I'll just call on people, just a couple of requests. Please identify yourself if you wouldn't mind. Keep the question short and make sure to attach a question mark to the end of the question. Yes.
Hi, my name is Afreen Akhtar. I'm a first-year second-year master's in public policy student at the Kennedy School. The ISI and the Pakistani military continue to fund and support elements of the Afghan Taliban while detaining leaders of the Afghan Taliban that seek to negotiate with the Afghan government without Pakistan's involvement. Given Pakistan's support for the Afghan insurgency, I'm wondering, how do you expect the war in Afghanistan to evolve over the next few years, and what is Pakistan's desired end state for Afghanistan?
Pakistan's desire or objective is to have a peaceful, stable Afghanistan, because Pakistan realizes that a stable, peaceful Afghanistan will bring peace to Pakistan. We have, keeping this in view, dramatically in the last 2.5 years changed our bilateral relations with Afghanistan. From suspicion, we have moved towards more trust and confidence. There is a greater level of exchange at all levels, political, military, and intelligence. We have signed a new transit trade agreement. There is more parliamentary exchange taking place today between Pakistan and Afghanistan than ever before. There is a new realization that we have to coexist and we need one another for stability in the region. Coming to ISI, ISI is often demonized. But let's not forget the contribution that ISI has made in this fight against extremism and terrorism. No other organization, in my view, has apprehended more Al-Qaeda people and terrorists and extremists than the ISI has. ISI has provided the United States, an ally of Pakistan, the access, the information that is required for progress in Afghanistan. I think there is a new realization in Pakistan, and as I was talking at lunch, there is a new realization in Pakistan, and that is we need a friendly Afghanistan. We need a friendly government in Afghanistan. It is not for us to impose a government there. It is for the people of Afghanistan to decide who governs them. But we want We want to help them help ourselves because our interests are interlinked. Let's not forget that bulk, almost the entire trade that goes on, in Afghanistan is through Pakistan. So Pakistan is a very important link to Afghanistan. The last bit was talks. ISI is not guiding any talks. The Afghans have to decide who they want to talk to. It has to be a process led and owned by Afghanistan. We have very clearly shared this with President Karzai. It is for you, the Afghans, to decide who you want to engage with. Tell us what your strategic framework is going to be, and we will help. You decide what you want from us, and we will facilitate.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Mariam Choktai. I'm a student here and also the president of Harvard Pakistan Student Group. We cannot imagine how difficult your job must be negotiating with the United States because changing a mindset is not easy. Let's imagine for a moment and hope that you are successful in securing equitable support from the United States and successful in changing their mindset. When you go home with that happy news, don't you think you need strategies to, or what are those strategies to change the mindset of corruption back home? What would be some strategies to make sure that once you bring home that aid and trade and opportunities, that all that money and opportunities won't be exploited, misused, or disappear as they usually do? Thank you.
Thank you for at least realizing how difficult my job is. I'm dealing with a mindset which is not just difficult here, it's a difficult mindset there. And often, when I come here, there's a barrage of questions. When I go back, there is a barrage of questions. And I often forget who am I defending at times. But I know for sure that building a long-term partnership between between Pakistan and the United States is in Pakistan's interest. That is why I'm an advocate of this partnership, a long-term, enduring partnership. Having said that, I have at least put in my twopence worth in making this strategic dialogue, which will start in a couple of days, more meaningful and more result-oriented. Coming to the question of transparency, accountability, and the issue of corruption. Corruption is not just confined to Pakistan. We have corrupt people all over the world. What the world has done, what mature democracies have done, they have created mechanisms to deal with it. And they've held people accountable or responsible for that. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, we have not been able to develop those institutions to the extent that we should have. Whenever there was accountability, it was selective accountability. It was not accountability across the board. It was accountability at times which was used as a witch hunt. It was accountability at times for perpetuation of power. And in our independent existence, there were many periods where the media was gagged, where the judiciary was not as independent as it is today. Today, there are 2 or 3 developments that have taken place, and these are very positive developments, as any Pakistani would recognize. Today, we have a democracy, and we have free debate in Parliament. Not only free debate in Parliament, the leader of the opposition is chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. So nothing gets hidden, nothing gets shoved under the carpet. 1. Today, we have an independent judiciary, a judiciary that defied, a military ruler in uniform in Pakistan. That's the kind of judiciary you're dealing with. Today in Pakistan, we have a very vibrant, a very independent media. And believe you me, anything and everything that happens gets reported. It's a question of time. Nothing gets hidden. So, what we need is developing institutions and ultimately let the people of Pakistan decide what's right, what's wrong, who's honest and who's corrupt. We cannot allow a coterie sitting in Islamabad take that decision. Let the people of Pakistan, in a free, fair, credible election, decide. If they feel the present government is corrupt, or the individual so and so is corrupt, let the people of Pakistan throw that government and that individual out, but through the ballot box. That is how we will develop a democratic culture, and we will evolve democratic values, and we will address the issue of corruption on a permanent basis. There are no quick fixes. Let's do it the right way this time.
Hello, sir. My name is Katie Peters. I'm a second-year master's candidate here at the Kennedy School. I was somewhat surprised that you endorsed the early Kerry Lugar proviso for additional aid, given certification of a democratic and civil society in Pakistan. One of the major criticisms I heard of Kerry Lugar was the number of strings attached to the aid it provided. However, I see this as a positive step that could potentially benefit both countries in encouraging positive democratic trends in Pakistan while providing necessary aid. What other practical areas for collaboration do you see between the United States and Pakistan? If we don't have a culture of trust, what mutual interests can we pursue as we work to build it over time?
Ma'am, that's exactly what I'm trying to do, to bridge the trust deficit. I'm trying to do that. And I think we have taken some steps forward, but there's a long way to go. That's one. On the issue of Kerry Lugar, yes, there were question marks, there was suspicions. People felt that it was too intrusive, but my record speaks for me. I defended it. I defended it in the media. I defended it in Parliament. When there was a very hostile environment, I went back. I came to Washington to build bridges. I went back to Pakistan. I dashed and I explained it on the floor of the House. When the entire mood, the media was so sort of aggressive about it, I stuck my political neck out and said, no, you are wrong. This is a very positive gesture. This is a gesture made by the American people to connect with the people of Pakistan. This is American taxpayer money. They're giving it to you to build schools, hospitals, to improve the quality of life of the ordinary citizen. Be appreciative of what has been done. And I think I succeeded in turning the tide.
So what comes next?
What steps next? A continued engagement of understanding, sharing each other's sensitivities and concerns. If I want a long-term relationship with the United States, I have to understand what your challenges, what your concerns are, and am I willing to address them? If I am, then only will we move forward. You have to understand and be sensitive to my concerns. And I have concerns too. And if I can see you being equally supportive and understanding, then a relationship will develop. We've had, in the last 6 decades, a cyclical relationship. We've been very close, and as I was saying at lunch, we have been the most sanctioned ally as well. So it's time to rethink and time to build a partnership, not between governments, between people. And that is why when the Secretary of State came to Pakistan And I must say, she was willing to do this, and I was equally supportive of her engaging, not just government officials, engaging the people of Pakistan, civil society of Pakistan, students of Pakistan. And I think one of the best events was when she went to the government college in Lahore, and there were students from all over the country, young students all over the country, putting her questions, searching questions, being critical, and the way she answered them. I think that built that relationship. Investing in people, investing in democracy, so that people of Pakistan know by this action of the United States, my life has improved. That is what will make it enduring.
My name is Jordan, and I'm a sophomore in the college. And my question is in regard to Pakistan's relations with India, which are surely one of the more limiting factors as Pakistan becomes an emerging power. And given that over the years Pakistan has been accused of providing a safe haven for terrorists to train for actions, provocative actions against India, what is sort of the potential for progress / what is your government doing as the potential for maybe another Mumbai-style attack still exists and Indians perceive that potential for more terrorism exists?
To begin with, unfortunately, between India and Pakistan, there are some outstanding issues. And I think the United States has to realize that those outstanding issues have to be addressed. We can't wish them away. They keep haunting us. We have to address them. And the sooner we address them, the better it is for the entire region. I think India and Pakistan both need to realize that we are neighbors and we will always remain neighbors. So it's better to learn to be good neighbors. And we can be good neighbors. And we can be helpful to each other. We can complement so many of our activities. We can promote economic growth of South Asia. We can collectively improve the working conditions within SAARC if India-Pakistan relations improve. So there is room for that. There is understanding. There is hope for that. In my view, it is not often realized, but I think there is a large constituency for peace on both sides of the border. Yes, there is a vociferous minority. Yes, there are jingoistic voices on both sides. But by and large, there's a new generation taking control on both sides. A different generation. A generation that has not seen the pains of partition, but is acknowledging, and there's realization on the dividends of peace to both sides. Terrorism, yes, what happened in Mumbai was tragic, and I condemned it. And I'm on record condemning it the day it happened, because I was in Delhi. When the Taj Hotel in Mumbai was burning, I was residing in the Taj Hotel in Delhi, and I was engaging with the Delhi press corps that very evening. And what was my message? My message was, I'm not here to see this. I was here to build bridges, to promote normalization. It is sad to see a terrorist, take center stage and scuttle the process of normalization and, undertake an act which suspended the composite dialogue, which, in my view, was a useful process. We should not allow them to do so. How can we do it? We can only do it if both sides realize that this is a common enemy and we need a common approach to defeat this menace. If there was a tragedy in Mumbai, there's a tragedy in Pakistan, Karachi, Lahore, Quetta, Peshawar. Every major urban center has been hit in Pakistan post-Mumbai. Who has done that? Who's responsible for killing those innocent people in Pakistan? Indians got to realize. Who's killed those innocent people in Mumbai? We've got to realize and develop a common understanding. Collectively, we can fight them and we can defeat them. But if we turn away, if we disengage, they will be the net beneficiaries.
Thanks very much. My name is Ruvi Ziegler. I'm a visiting researcher at the law school. You mentioned that Pakistan is a nuclear power, and you also claim that Pakistan is a friend of America and the West. I was wondering whether you think that Pakistan shares the West's view that Iran should not be acquiring nuclear weapons, and if Pakistan does share that view, why is it reasonable for Pakistan to retain its nuclear power?
To begin with, why did Pakistan go that route? India. I said to begin with, why did we follow that route?
I don't know.
Simple, simple reason. Out of, it was a defensive reaction. It was a reaction to Indian program. They initiated the program. We followed suit. Look at the size, look at the conventional superiority India has over Pakistan. It was but natural. And look at the outstanding issues that exist between India and Pakistan. It was a natural reaction to that Indian program and design to begin with, one. Two, coming to Iran, Pakistan and I can share this with you, we've been engaging with Iran, telling them to reach some sort of an understanding. Negotiate. Negotiated way is the best option because we do not feel that the region can take more tension. The region is full of tension right now, and we cannot have another, major crisis in the region. So, in my engagements with Foreign Minister Muttaqi, I have always encouraged them to reach out. This administration has been extending the olive branch. Make use of it. Engage with the world. And in my view, I don't think they have a justification to go nuclear. They are signatories to the NPT, and I think they should respect that. They have an international obligation. They've signed NPT, and they should respect that. And who's threatening Iran? I don't see any immediate threat to Iran. Yes, they have a right to a civilian use of technology. We respect and accept that right.
Thanks for that. I'm Daniel. I'm a student at the college. And you've talked a lot tonight about the interplay of American and Pakistani national interests and how they relate to the security framework for the region. So in that context, how do you view the stated American intention to begin withdrawing from Afghanistan in July of 2011?
I didn't get that. What is your opinion on the withdrawal of American forces beginning in July 2011? I think that has been now qualified. Yes, when that announcement was initially made, there was concern, not just in Pakistan, there was concern in Afghanistan. And we heard of, the Taliban saying, they have the watches, but we have time on our side, right? So I think the administration has qualified that statement of theirs by saying that it would be linked to the ability of the Afghan authorities to assume responsibility for their security. And it will happen in phases. It won't happen in just one go. You're not just packing your bags and leaving. That's the understanding I have. That yes, NATO forces, ISAF forces will start withdrawing in a phased manner. Areas that are secure and are safe will be transferred to Afghan security apparatus. And the sooner they are able to do so, the quicker that withdrawal will be sort of put into, into reality. But you have to realize that for Afghans to take responsibility of their security, it'll take time. It's a war-torn country. They've been in fighting for the last 3 decades. They do not have sort of large enough trained Afghan National Army. And Americans and other friends are helping train sufficient numbers of Afghan National Army, Afghan National Police. Institutions of governance are being they are being erected. It'll take time. It'll take time. President Karzai himself has said that they would not be in a position to assume control and responsibility till 2014. And this was said in the international conference and endorsed by the international conference in Afghanistan in July, perhaps the 20th of July in Kabul this year.
Good evening. My name is Kartika Shashikumar. I'm a fellow at the Belfer Center at the Kennedy School. As you know, in the last few years, India has signed agreements on civil nuclear cooperation with the United States and several other countries. So I have 2 questions. Firstly, what effect do you think this will have on the strategic relationship in South Asia? And secondly, does Pakistan seek such agreements? If so, what is your diplomatic strategy towards that goal?
We certainly seek that because we feel that there should be no discrimination. And Pakistan today is a country which is energy deficient. We have huge energy requirements, as India does. We have a record which is as safe, perhaps, as India on civil and nuclear energy, and there is a requirement. And what is going to be my strategy to achieve that? I don't think I have to share that on this forum.
Thank you. I'm John Soylu from Turkey. I'm a freshman at the college. In your speech, you mentioned the anti-American sentiment in Pakistan, and I wanted to ask you the following question. How do you think the war on terror and the political, the post 9/11 political climate affected that sentiment in Pakistan?
You see, to begin with, there was not, in my view, not enough realization in Pakistan what terrorism or terrorists, what negative effect and impact they can have on Pakistan. Today, in my view, that realization has grown significantly because people have seen, they've seen flight of capital. People have seen a brain drain. People have seen investors shy away from Pakistan. People have seen innocent people being killed and maimed all over the country. People have seen what the Taliban stand for and what they subscribe to. They have seen what they were trying to enforce upon the people of Pakistan when they moved into Swat, the valley of Swat, right? The kind of justice that they're talking about. They don't believe in democracy. The people of Pakistan want democracy. They don't believe in sending girls and women to schools, but the people of Pakistan want their girls and women to be educated. You know, it's different. In many ways, we have similarities, we have commonalities, but there are many differences between Pakistan society and Afghan society. And I think, and the way they conducted themselves, the brutality, the atrocities, and the hate that they have preached all over, I think has converted public opinion against them. And today, if there's a free, fair, open opinion poll or an election, you will see political thought and political parties that are in sympathy with that school of thought will never be voted in Pakistan. And the election of 2008 is a testament in front of you. People had the choice. People had the choice of voting those sort of right of center or religious parties into office. They opted not to do so, and things have changed significantly away from them in the last 2.5 years.
The last question.
Good evening, Your Excellency. My name is Federico Manfredi. I'm a master's student here at the Kennedy School. I have a question about Pakistan's national security interest. Do you think it would be in the best interest of Pakistan if the Afghan Taliban were to join the government of Hamid Karzai? And why yes or why not?
If the Taliban join you see, the Karzai government has laid out certain conditions, and it's for them to decide. And those conditions are very clear-cut. One, anyone who wants to engage with them, A, has to give up violence, give up arms, accept the Afghan constitution and what the constitution stands for. And we are willing to talk to them. Because there is a realization in Afghanistan, and perhaps now beyond Afghanistan, that many who are sympathetic, who are seen to be sort of affiliated with the Taliban movement, are not there for ideological reasons, are there because of different reasons, because there are no other sort of opportunities of gainful employment. And many are terrorized, many are scared to even stand up to them. So if they're given the security, if they're given the protection, many would want to opt out from that. And if they're given a chance, they might come that way.
I agree with your analysis, but from the perspective of Pakistan's national security, how do you see this issue? Would it be a good thing if the Afghan Taliban reached an agreement with Karzai?
I think anything that will promote stability in Afghanistan, any step that promotes stability, any step that brings Afghanistan closer to peace is in Pakistan's national security interest.
And would that promote that goal?
We'll have to wait and see. But there is hope. There is hope.
Thank you.
I want to thank the Minister for being with us at Harvard today, wish the people of Pakistan well after the horrible floods, and wish for peace and stability in his country and in his region. Thank you, Minister.